if you know that real estate, it's just, you have to believe it in your heart that investing any of those type of assets, if you do it correctly, that will give you the life that you don't need a vacation from, which is my mantra. And figure out your why. If your why is, well, I want to be rich, that's wrong, because the money will come as a result of you doing what you want to do and what you love to do. And for me, it was building a life that I don't need a vacation from. I can now do real estate anywhere in the world. I do it anywhere in the world, back in an RV, and I set my own time schedule, so it worked out.
Welcome to Rigs to Riches. I'm Casey Gregersen, engineer turned investor, family man, and your guide to building real estate wealth the smart way. If you're out there pulling long shifts, running teams, or just flying back from the rig or that long business trip just in time for that family dinner, you're in the right place. Each week, I sit down with guests who walk the walk. Some of these are operators doing flips, rentals, multifamily, creative deals, buying businesses, and others are professionals who will help you actually understand things like taxes, underwriting, or financing, and much more, so that you can invest wisely, even if you're short on time. Whether you're looking for your first deal or trying to buy back your time, we've got you covered. This is Rigs to Riches, where we talk freedom, family, and flipping the script on your finances. All right, guys, welcome to Rigs to Riches. Really excited for our guest today. I was actually on his podcast a while back. We hit it off, really enjoyed it, so much so that I'm like, you got to come on and be on Rigs to Riches. So I want to introduce to you guys today, this is Mike Stohler, co-founder of Gateway Private Equity Group, a hotel real estate investment firm. So a little bit of Mike's background. We were actually just talking. When the multifamily market shifted in 2016 and cap rates shrunk, Mike pivoted into hotel investments for higher returns and better value add opportunities. Since then, he's branded his hotel assets in the United States and is currently buying his first boutique hotel in Spain, which I can't wait to dive into. But Mike, we were just talking. Sounds like it all started in like 97. Is that the first one, or where does the story start?
Yeah, story starts way back when. I call it the PG days, which is the pre-Google days. Went to a seminar. They told me to get out there and whatever you can, however you can, go buy stuff. I'm like, that's easy enough, So what do? You put money on credit cards, you buy, get a house that you didn't know how to run, how to do anything, do an inspection. I didn't know anything about it. So I ended up buying 8 properties in a very, very small town in Indiana. That was the easy part. The hard part is I couldn't Google how to be a landlord. I had no clue how to do anything. And all of a sudden now I'm learning how to do plumbing, roofing. I'm having my tenants in lawn chairs with the beer cooler watching me replace roofs. That I was their enjoyment for the day. But it got to the point where it's like I didn't know what to do. So I failed miserably because I couldn't get any help, in a town of 2,500 people. It's like I don't know anything about this stuff. Eviction paperwork, leasing paperwork, none of that. So that was, my start was not a good start, but it was a long time ago. But I kept at it and did okay with it.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, we always talk about, just go buy stuff, get going. At least you took action, which a lot of people don't, right? But you took that action, didn't realize what it entailed about being a landlord and all that stuff. But maybe just talk through that, right? Like, so sounds like there were challenges, but obviously I'm sure that shaped you and got you to where you're at today. But like, and you can even kind of allude to like people who are like, maybe that's the reason why they're not starting, because they're scared about that fear you kind of went through. But it sounds like you just pushed through.
Yeah, I speak at a lot of seminars in front of a lot of people, and there's 2 things. If another 3 more seminars, then I'll be ready for my first project. Another,
Yep.
and I'm like going, I see him again. Have you bought something? Well, now the interest rates, now, the economy, it's excuses. The second thing is, well, my cousin or my uncle or my dad had a rental and it went horrible. And he told me never to get in. There's the fear factor of that side. But yes, the hardest thing to do is just jump in and do it. And I might have maybe read some other books or found someone. I maybe jumped in too quick. And, ladies and gentlemen, all the YouTube kids and all those, hey, I made my first millions by this and and there's no sob stories. Everything's perfect in their lives. Bunch of baloney. Who do you want to learn from is the people like me and the others that failed hard, sold our house, moved in with my wife's parents hard. Those are real life stories. And the things that you learn, you can either be scared or say, okay, what can I learn? And I think it's probably my military experience. Setbacks are things that you learn from. like owning hotels during COVID. I could have just curled up. I wanted to curl up in a ball and say, please go away, COVID, but I became a much better person, much better real estate investor, much better general partner by the lessons learned when you fail. And what happened was all of a sudden I had these properties. I didn't even know. It's like in this seminar land, they didn't say, well, you should get an inspection. You should do this. I just kind of looked at the house and was like, okay, I can afford that. It was like $50,000. I can put $5,000 down. But then plumbing issue, you just have all this stuff. And it's like going, wow, okay, they're not paying. I don't even know how to evict. What's the steps? There's nowhere. I couldn't Google any of those things during the day. So I didn't have a mentor. So, the moral of the story or the thing to the story is I still have business coaches. I still have mentors that I talk to regularly. The most important thing you could do as you're getting started in anything is to have mentors. And you're never too good or never too educated to stop learning.
Yeah, love it. But even before that, and that's what's interesting, because I bought my first rental property in 2010, right? And like at least podcasts were coming out. Google was freely prevalent to go get what you needed. Didn't have the AI stuff they have these days, but lots of mentors. But I'm fascinated by that. How did you find mentors, or how did you work through it in those days before you knew like even where to find the right mentor?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, it's kind of hard to sift through the yellow pages for mentors in property management, and all this sort of stuff. So what I did was I was like, how can I do this? How can I learn? So I actually got a job. I did two things. Number one is I pretended that I was going to be a tenant at these big apartment complexes, just so I could use, and I say, hey, send me your application. Can I have your application, your lease application? And I basically stole the paperwork. I was like, okay, this is what people are using. So I just kind of, the old white out with their name, put it through the scanner, put my, wrote in my name, very rude, crude. But I basically tried to get as many forms as I could. And then I was like, let me take it one step further. Actually, for a brief period of time, went to work for a property management group that managed apartments. And that was my mentorship. I actually got paid for them to teach me how to do what I wanted to do.
That is good, right? That's advice I always try to give people. Like, a lot of people are going to come from their W-2s, like assume you did and assume I did. Actually, let's come back to that. But if you can ideally, find a career or find somewhere where you can get paid to learn, right? Yeah. Sounds like that's the golden ticket, right? Learn, hustle on the side. So that's how you keep going. So you built it through there. You were learning it, getting paid to learn it.
Yeah. I quit my previous job and said, I'm just my W-2, and went to work for this property management group. And they taught me how to be the landlord. And then I quit them and then started buying, and then I became an airline pilot because that was my dream. That's what I was working towards. And then I was able to use the airline pilot salary then to buy. And that's how, instead of using credit cards as down payments, HELOCs, and, all these different things, I didn't know anything about using other people's money or, I didn't know any of that stuff, but I was like, okay, how can I do this? Became an airline pilot, which was my dream, and then use that money to start buying apartments.
Wow. Okay. So had you bought any of the apartments before you had the airline job, or you were just learning the process before then?
Well, all those 8 units that I failed miserably on was prior. That was prior to being an airline pilot. That was probably 3 years prior. And it took us that long to kind of get out of debt. And then, I finished schooling for an airline pilot, add on more debt. But then once I got hired on, I was like, okay, we can pay off everything, get out of debt. And then I was like, my wife was also working. She has a good salary. And I was like, okay, let's get back into it. Now I know what I'm doing. And now Google's around. Yeah. And I was like, Google, where you been all my life? I could have. So I felt more comfortable getting back in the game.
Ooh. But keep going there. I love that you went in, you failed miserably. And do you mind, tell us a little bit more about what failure looked like? Sounds like you dug yourself a hole. Did you sell them all? Did you get out of it? And then how did you rebuild it a little bit more there? Because what I want to highlight is like you could fail and rebuild and still keep going.
You can. 100%. The average entrepreneur goes bankrupt 3 times before they hit it big, minimum of 3 times. So if you're a one and done, just stick to being an employee. If you can't handle the hardships and the sleepless nights and the anxiety and all the pain of wondering what's going on, just stick to being a W-2, because there are ups and downs when you're an entrepreneur and even as an investor. So what happened is, here's something that you may not realize, people that are just starting out. Where did I find those assets? Well, the town over had a little community college in Anderson, Indiana. It's called Anderson College. And what I realized, I was at an event. It was kind of like a coffee thing with the community people. And this person was the real estate person for this college. And I said, hey, you ever get any houses? You have anything? I'm trying to find houses. I don't know how to find houses. And he goes, you know what? We get bequeathed houses and properties all the time. He goes, we're not in the landlord business. I'm not in the housing business. My job is, as the real estate guy, is to manage the real estate that the college sits on. It's not to manage homes. He goes, I'll tell you what, let's talk in my office. And I can't believe I was just so uneducated and so naive that I couldn't make this work, but I panicked probably. Can you believe that through this college, I bought 8 homes. They financed it, because here's what they do know how to do. They know how to take money. They know how to do financing. So he goes, I'll tell you what, give me 10% down over, I can't remember how many years, and you can have these houses. And I'm like, done. And that's where, there's no inspection. I didn't even know what houses I was getting hold of. They just gave me 8 houses, seller financing. So this is an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. It's like, contact your local university or college and say, you have any houses you want to get rid of that's been bequeathed to you? And a lot of them will do seller financing. So that's how I got them. But then it's just the expenses. I was adding, the plumbing, the roofing. I was maxing out credit cards on repairs because I didn't do the due diligence. I didn't know any of that stuff. The seminar just said, go buy. So we're just maxing things out. And then, a tenant would leave because something was broken, and I'm like going, I don't have the money to fix it. I'm underneath in the crawl space trying to figure out, I don't know how to weld and solder, but I couldn't afford to hire anyone. So then a tenant would leave, and then I'm like going, okay, I put an ad in the paper, under rentals, and see if they came. And if it was sat empty for 3 days, well, I still had that payment, and then it's just kind of this snowball effect of just being not prepared. And so I ended up giving them back to the university. It didn't go against my credit. It didn't go in, I just gave them back. And I said, guys, I just can't handle this. But what happened is we had a lot of credit card debt because, we were just the repairs and all this stuff, and so we failed. But then I took the little time off, finished the schooling to be an airline pilot, became an airline pilot. And then I was like, well, after that, I worked for that property management group while I was going to school, because I went to school during the night school. And I was like, okay, when I got back into it, I was like, I'm a lot more prepared now. And I knew, just if that real estate is it, it's just, you have to believe it in your heart that investing any of those type of assets, if you do it correctly, that will give you the life that you don't need a vacation from, which is my mantra. And figure out your why. If your why is, well, I want to be rich, that's wrong, because the money will come as a result of you doing what you want to do and what you love to do. And for me, it was building a life that I don't need a vacation from. I can now do real estate anywhere in the world. I do it anywhere in the world, back in an RV, and I set my own time schedule, so it worked out. But man, those first couple of years, but I just knew it, I failed, I learned, I hit reset, a hard reset, and then did it again. And then it was gangbusters.
Oh man, makes totally sense. I mean, you learn the hard lessons, you hustled. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget this one too, Mike, when this was several years ago so one of my best ways I've always recruited good capital partners is, I enjoy coaching my kids, and I coach their kids' sports teams. And the parents are people who we live in a nice, affluent neighborhood, and a lot of those people are like, "Oh, I see what you're doing." And I'll never forget one of the guys I go have lunch with, and he's like, and I'm telling this story similar to yours of like doing too many fix and flips at once, getting over leveraged, not being able to make our payments, having to hand them back to the lender. And I'm going through the story and telling him, I'm like, and just being vulnerable and honest. And he's like, you know what, Casey, you just told me everything I need to know. He's like, so many people, especially our age, like we've been just riding this high in the real estate market. And he's like, his words were, no one has got their teeth kicked in like you, Casey. Right. So he's like, I would like, let's talk. Like, I would love to invest in some of your deals because you've seen it. Right. So you had gone through that. And now you went back and you had now your W-2, which is kind of the same thing I had, is that's how I built up my portfolio as a strong W-2. And then, but now you've got that, you've learned all those lessons the hard way. You've learned, oh man, it makes total sense how you've gotten where you're at now, Mike. Incredible.
Yep. And then I went to the proper type of seminars, proper type of mentors, and then they taught me how to use other people's money. And that's when it went
even
then
more.
It started. Well, because I was using my own money, it's like, okay, I have a 50-unit apartment complex. Okay, I'm going to hold it for a couple of years, fix it up, the whole thing. And in 3 years, sell it and get another one. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be 70 years old by the time I, make any money or, have that life I want to lead. And then I was like, went to this thing and he's like, why are you using your own money? And I'm like, well, because I don't know, And then that's when you learn. It's like, oh, okay, syndications, funds, joint ventures.
Oh, yeah. And especially, I'm going to assume that comes back to like your purpose and your why, right? For you to really do it full time, be able to work and not feel like work. I love your mantra, by the way. That was a way to scale it, right? To start to do more and allow you to do what you're doing now. Which I want to
hire people and hire the right people. So a lot of mistakes that I see is like, well, I can't afford to hire people. And I said, well, then you'll never be able to afford to hire people, because in able to afford what you want to do, you have to spend the money, delegate. And it wasn't until I started delegating, because I was paying the bills, I was doing this, and I was like going, when's the last time I bought something? It's like, well, I don't have time because I am doing all the $12 an hour jobs.
Yes.
I'm doing all this sort of stuff. I'm also property, and then once I started getting into the larger apartment complexes, I hired the on-site property management, the maintenance people. And it wasn't until it's like going, what am I good at? I hate accounting. Why am I paying the bills? I can't stand it. I hate tenants. Why am I going to the properties? I used to love people until you get enough tenants. And they do stupid stuff, and you're like, oh, why are you doing stupid stuff? And then I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble. I better hire somebody that does the day-to-day, because I'm going to mouth off, and the military is going to come out of me, and I'm just going to do something I shouldn't, because tenants will be tenants. And why are you flushing that down the toilet? And it's like, quit yelling at each other through the drain, through the tub. I'm like, how stupid are you? The stories I could tell about apartments is just, man. But it wasn't until I delegated, relieved all that stuff, and it cost me money. But then in the long run, I was able to start buying again and doing what I love to do. And all of a sudden, it was the return of that initial investment. It's like, come on, man, I should have done that 5 years ago,
Yeah. Well, go into there, Mike. So you've talked about the active, right? So a lot of our audience will be people who want to be like us and want to go build a business, build a life. But other people are, like you said, they're the W-2 ones that are like, if you don't want to keep going and fail and know that you're going to fail a bunch of times, not everybody's wired like that. So what would you kind of say to those folks though, but could still maybe get exposure to real estate, or what advice do you have to those people that really probably should keep their W-2 and be maybe more passive?
Well, you should keep your W-2, because that's the only way that you're going to get a bank loan, or that's the way you're going to get started. All of a sudden you say, I'm going to quit my job and go full-time into real estate. You're not going to get any. You can get hard money at 25% interest or whatever. So keep your W-2 until you have actually replaced that income by 1.5 to 2 times. Not just, I've replaced my income. It's like, nope, it's not enough, because then you quit, because instead of now doubling your income, you've replaced your income with passive. You have your W-2. Now you've doubled your income. So why would you quit the W-2? Now you're back to just earning what you were. So make sure that you've another 1 times it or another 2 times it. And then you can really afford, now you're building up the portfolio. Now you can afford to quit. Because then if 1 or 2 investments go bad, it's like, oh crap, now I'm not making half of what I used to. So don't be too quick to quit your W-2. What I recommend is, if you want to eventually become a GP, get mentors, do some maybe JVs. If you have a good W-2 and say, hey, Mike, Casey, I want to learn how this goes. Can I buy into a hotel, or what will it take for me to invest? But then I want to be your shadow. do that. How I got involved in hotels, I had a big portfolio of multifamily. Someone came in and bought me out, and I was like, now what? So what I did, and this is what you could do if you want to go into another asset class, is I found a person. I'd known him for a little while. He had about 25 years experience in hotels. And I said, hey, look, I have the money. I want to go buy some hotels, but I want you to teach me everything. We're going to do a JV agreement. And what I'm going to do is I gave him a piece of the pie and the back end. Okay. Because I learned with property management groups that they don't care about you. They don't care about the asset. They care about their fees. So I wanted to give this person incentive to make me a lot of money, because then he would make a lot of money. And we are still partners. So advice to W-2s, you back to your question, be a limited partner, do a joint venture, learn how this stuff works before you jump into it. If you decide to do it, hey, I'm just going to buy this apartment complex, do a syndication, but it's my first one, or maybe, hey, I own a fourplex. You're not going to get a lot of people's money because they want to know what kind of experience you have. I'm not going to give you $100,000 if you watch HGTV for a couple seasons and now decide you're an expert in doing these things. It's going to be hard for you to do that. So the best thing for you to do is partner yourself up, and now you get attached to like my LLC or my company. Now you're gaining experience as you're a partner inside of this envelope. And then maybe the next thing is you get your friends and family with you, and then I partner with you and I run it. So now you have another level of expertise where I'm just kind of like on the board and I'm kind of overlooking things, but you've kind of hired me to do your own, and now I'm tagged onto it. And I've done that before where I have to be on the bank loan. It's like, hey, Mike, I have this great opportunity, but the bank won't give me any, I don't have the experience. What if we make you a partner and have you co-sign on the loan? So that's another way that you can get someone with expertise involved. And then I said, yeah, I'll do that as long as I have this, and I can control that. And I get, I'm just not going to let you run wild with it with my name on it. But there's a lot of different scenarios. It's just a matter of connecting with the people like us, Casey and I, that have experience, and just learn, bug us. I teach people on the side. So it's like, there's only so much bugging that I'm going to do for free because I'm just so busy. You don't want to take advantage of us that way, but there's courses and classes you can take. And I have people that hire me to teach them, the difference between multifamily and hotels.
Yeah. Well, Mike, all that makes complete sense. What I love is, but you're not telling people to go, you led with value, right? When you went to your partner, right? You led with, hey, like, I got this deal. I'm assuming you were bringing a valuable deal. You're just like, I just want you to I want to learn from you, but hey, you get to keep a piece of this. So first off, you aligned with him, you brought him value, which is genius. And then the other gold of what Mike just shared with you guys is like, that is the way to shortcut the line. If you want to, everybody wants the shortcut, but if us hustlers and entrepreneurs know there are no shortcuts, but Mike want to give you the one shortcut you could take. And that is finding somebody who's already done it, aligning with them, and then being able to ride along with them. That's genius. And it sounds like you learned it because you didn't want to learn all the lessons the hard way again, like you did in multifamily, right?
Exactly. So what you do is you bring in the sensei, I call Vic, and, he's been my partner in other deals. He's my partner in Spain. And so along with, now he has, 30, 35 years experience in hotels, and I'm doing asset with us as a team. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, that one phone call that, that coffee of saying, look, you show me how to buy hotels, you show me how to operate them, you show me all this sort of stuff, and give him an incentive. And he's like, oh, sure, I'll do it. And that was probably the best thing I've ever done in my career.
Wow.
By thinking outside of the box, ladies and gentlemen, and not just doing, well, I get, this is what they say, this, and this, and the JV, then it's done. It's all that, other people's money. How can, like Casey said, how can you shortcut, pay to cut in line to get things done? Because I had zero experience with hotels. Now I have a lot, but I don't need a lot because Vic is he is now part of my company and the operations partner.
Wow.
He runs the day-to-day.
Really?
And
go there.
What kind of partnership is that?
Heck yeah. You struck a gold. So keep going, Mike. I want to hear, what have you learned, or what do you love about the hotel asset class? And then And then I want you to segue into how you got into doing international and the stuff in Spain.
All right. So number one, ladies and gentlemen, if you own multifamily, I don't care how many multifamily you own, don't just buy hotels. Get a Vic, like a guy like my partner's, his name is Vic. Multifamily is real estate. Hotels are a business that sits on real estate. It's not real estate. It's, as far as the government's concerned, it's not real estate. It's a business. It's a small business. It's a franchise business. The difference is, I love that I get your credit card up front. I'm not chasing rents. I get a big smile like that because it's like, God, if I had to chase one more rent, and then it's like, I had to go buy new furniture at Rent-A-Center, so I can't pay my rent this month. And I'm like, what? That furniture is going to look really nice on the curb. I'm like going, what, these people? So anyway, I get your credit card up front. I get to change my rent, quote unquote, every day or 4 times a day, where you're stuck in 6-month leases, 1-year leases, at $2,000 a month. Mine's $2,000 a day per room. Or a concert comes in, a fair comes in, some type of a show comes in. Now it's $300. Now it's $320. In the summer off season, it might be $80 or $90, but it's like the gas station. You ever pass by a gas station on your way to and from work, and it's whatever, and then on the way back is another price, because it's variable. It's active rating. So I love the fact that I can change the rents every day. I get your credit card up front. I have, if you partner with a franchise like Marriott or Hilton, I have over 100 million potential clients or guests. I use their marketing. I pay for their marketing, but I get to use their reservation systems. I don't have to build up on marketing. I don't have to run ads. It's all done for me. And the cap rates are a lot better than multifamily. Because here's the thing is everybody that watches or wants to get into investing, they start usually like fix and flips. The goal for most people is to get into multifamily. That's usually where it stops. Okay, because that's kind of where people's limit is. Fix and flips, Airbnbs, single family, multifamily, then it stops. They may diversify in maybe mobile homes or storage or things like that, but really no one looks at hotels. A lot of people that I talk to, it's like, wow, I didn't even know people could own hotels. I'm like, well, who do you think owns hotels? Maybe they thought that maybe are all institutional. So there's less competition. So the cap rates are a lot better. The value is a lot better. If you look at a 100-unit apartment complex or 100-key hotel, the hotel's cap rates are a lot better. I'm getting 10 to 12%.
10 to 12. Okay.
Instead of 4.
4. Okay. What do you typically try to
4.
buy? I'm just curious. Like obviously multifamily, we're trying to buy at a 10, 12 cap, sell it at a 6, but in a perfect world, right? Is it similar numbers you're trying to buy?
Yeah, but I haven't been in multifamily for a long time. When I exited out, cap rates here in Arizona were 4.5 is what you're buying at. So if you're telling me that they're back up to 10 or 12, or maybe like the C class or the, I don't know, that'd be great. But yeah, so I just sold a hotel, and it's kind of difficult because we really don't use cap rates per se, in businesses. It's kind of like a gross revenue multiplier. But let me see here. I bought it for $5 million, 5.5 years ago, sold it for 7.8, increased the revenues about $400,000 a year. And I was making about $200,000 a year in distributions. So if you look at $200,000 a year for 5.5 years, and then, you bought it at 5, sold it at 7.8, it was about a 3.6 time multiplier of what, put down. So I made 3.6 times my money in 5.5 years.
Wow. Yeah. Those makes sense. You're running the business, man. I like it. Well, Mike, tell me more. I want to make sure you have time for what brought you to Spain? What brought you international? This sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah. So, very quickly, some of the challenges with hotels here in the United States, the economy, interest rates, labor. When I first got into hotels, I was paying housekeepers $10.50 an hour. Now I can't get one for under 20, so just payroll is just crazy. Expenses have gone up 40% in the last 2.5 years. So it's been the DSCR, the debt service coverage ratio. It's really hard because now it's, okay, let's say I can maybe find something at an 8 cap, but then the interest rates are seven and a half for hotels. So now I'm like going, I can't make it work. Vic, my old partner, bought an apartment in Spain. He's been there for about 3.5 years. And we just bought an investment property in Spain. And he kept bugging me for a couple of years. He goes, you need to look at Spain. And I'm like, Spain and all that sort of things. But short story, I went over there and I was like, my God, I can get a 600-year-old castle or 700-year-old estate in the mountains outside of Barcelona that's been converted, fully running 4-star boutique hotel for like 1.8 million total.
Wow.
No marketing, the one we're looking at now, no marketing, no website, word of mouth, and it makes 500,000 euros. It grosses 500,000 euros a year. We can buy it for under 2 million. And I'm like going, oh my God. I mean, it's like, unbelievable. Interest rates, a commercial interest rate is 2.7% over in Spain. Wow. It's almost free money. And we started looking at these things and, we learned over the last year and a half, we have the Spanish LLC, we have all the things, we have all the companies set up. We learned the tax laws and all the different things so people don't have to worry about it. The Spanish to American tax treaties, we've figured all that sort of stuff out. But we started opening up the fund. And the first thing that people, when I show these pictures to these people is, okay, I've never had someone say, man, I cannot wait to go see that Quality Inn in Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah.
That no one ever, with the money. But everyone says, okay, how can I stay at this place? This is like a Disneyland. And I can't believe I have an opportunity to maybe own one of these things. So we started doing what's called a lifestyle investment and kind of rethought this of, we're going to do a portfolio of these type of boutiques where you have a website, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Croatia, and we're going to buy several of these types of boutiques. And again, it's less than $2 million a piece. Cap rates are insane. It's like I can't even do a correct pro forma because people think it's a Ponzi scheme.
I bet so. I can only imagine. Yeah, seriously.
But here's the thing is people aren't buying them over there because they don't have the entrepreneurial spirit. And so we can come in and buy these things and to do what we know how to do, the things that we can turn around. And people are saying, Mike, we don't want you to ever sell these. So we have these different situations of how you can get out and how you can keep it and what you have to do to get 2 weeks stay every year, so it just became an eye-opening thing on a different type of syndication for us. But that's really wise. Like, why would I ever really want to buy another hotel in America that I can pay $10 million for it? The application fee, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to say the franchise. I was trying to buy a hotel in Ohio just to fill out an application. It's $200,000 just for an application fee for a hotel. Payrolls, $300,000-400,000. Spain, my GM, it's a couple. They make $30,000 a year, and that is high middle class over in these types of areas in Spain. So payroll's a lot less, and it's just the returns are it's crazy. So that's eye-opening. Plus, these Game of Thrones type of estates in these medieval towns, it's just like you look at this thing. It's like there was a scene in Game of Thrones I know was in this hotel. It's that type of look. It's just crazy. So that's why. And now it's like, you know what? We're going to stick with Spain for a while just because the returns are so good. And the cost to get in is so inexpensive.
Yeah. So many things I love about that. Obviously. Yeah. I mean, and me as a general partner and like who raises capital and getting people on board, like so many thoughts come to mind. But the one is the longevity of the investment. What you said that I clicked for me is like, they don't want you to sell them, right? Most limited partners are like, when are you going to sell this so I can get my money back and so I can get my return? But your people are like you said, it's lifestyle investing. They don't want to sell. They want to keep the ownership of that beautiful Game of Thrones castle.
They want to be able to go. And here's, ladies and gentlemen, something else you don't realize. Let's say you go to Europe for vacations. What happens if you take an airline flight over to see an asset, your business asset? What is that flight now?
That's that 100% deductible. Yeah.
It's deductible. So how would you like your European vacation to be deductible, with the airfare? And all of a sudden people are like going, oh, it's like, okay, wait a minute. I'm postponing my European vacation until, after you close.
Till we can get in. Oh, that's
so awesome. I said, well, show me the money, let's get in. and let's close this thing. So that's another benefit is the deductions. But people are like going, I can't imagine. I want to sit in this lobby with a glass of red wine and say, not only am I doing my dream vacation, but I actually own a piece of this thing.
Oh, so good. So good. Well, man, I think I know what your answer is going to be, but Mike, what's next for you? More hotels, or where are you going in the next 5 years?
Yeah. It's going to be a portfolio in Europe. There's Portugal's probably going to be next. We're going to buy a couple in Spain, 3 or 4 that we're looking at in Spain. Portugal is very, very attractive. Italy. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I want a website of, the boutiques, whatever, old boutiques of your, whatever it's named, Dropbox, you pick and choose, and, have the investors come along with me. I want them to be able to go click on the website and where am I going to stay for the next 2 weeks, which one of my properties. So it's going to be a fun ride for the limited partners and our group.
Just keep it going, man. Love it. Well, let's do I want to go into our freedom 4. So we're all about financial freedom and family, doing it all together. But I want to talk about yours, Mike. So number 1, if you lost it all today, what's the first thing you would do to get it back?
Have a glass of whiskey.
The ones, yeah, I'll answer it again. It's one of the ones you kind of already answered it. So if you lost it all day, what's the first thing you would do to get back? And my answer still might be go find somebody who already knows what they're doing and partner with them.
Yeah.
That was good one you shared.
Yeah. First off, I'd have a glass of whiskey to reset because I just lost it all. And number 2, I would say, okay, who can I learn from? It's get yourself back up, give yourself a kick in the butt and say, who didn't lose it all? Who's done it 5 or 6 more years than you did? And go find that mentor again and then just drag them. And always do an incentive. Don't say, hey, can I take you out for coffee and get a bunch of free stuff from you? Give that person value for you bugging them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. I assumed that was going to be a good answer from you. All right, number 2, Mike, is what is one deal you'd never do again and why? I know you mentioned your 8plex earlier as a deal that, well, you probably would do it because it sounds like you learned a lot from it. But any deals you remember that you're like, oh man, I would not recommend doing that again?
Yeah, buying a hotel November 2019. What happened?
Yes.
2 months.
Where was that at? Where was the hotel at? What state?
Arizona.
Mm.
So it survived because it was in Arizona. I wasn't forced to shut down. So another thing, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have time to get into is you talk about me thinking about outside of the box and how I can learn when I first started and got to work for a product management group. Then I got Vic as a partner, thinking outside of the box. Thinking outside of the box when you have hotels during COVID is crazy. I tease people. I had a full head of hair prior to COVID, but I would not have bought a hotel in November of 2019 if I could do it all over again.
Do it again.
No, I still have nightmares, but it survived. Even though it was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me ever, I'm a so much better hotelier because number 1, because I had investors, I had limited partners in this one. I will not let these investors down. I did not take any fees. I did not take any I did not do it. I shut myself down in order to capitalize on the asset and make the asset survive. And the limited partners really appreciated that. And, I went from monthly, I updated them every week. It's just the things that I learned was incredible, that I can move forward with. But I would not wish that on anyone.
Yeah, like you say, but you're like me, Mike. You learn from it, and it turns into a positive. But if you could have learned it a little bit easier, I'm sure you would have taken that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good one for you because I think you've been investing a lot of different assets for many years, right? But what's one thing that most investors overlook, in your opinion? Like maybe something unique that you do when you're looking at a deal that you think most people overlook?
Yeah. Big one is people think about due diligence. And a lot of people, matter of fact, I can't believe that I've hardly run into anyone that does this. Have you ever matched up tax returns to the P&Ls? Most people don't.
Banks do, but that's about it.
Banks do.
Yeah. But not
and lenders they'll usually try to catch it, but sometimes they don't. If you have a bank that's not used to maybe an asset class. But I tell you, you won't believe how many times. Number 1, don't ever look at a pro forma. Okay, I want you to take the pro forma page, wad it up, and throw it away. Okay, pro formas are stupid. if if a broker is saying, well, yeah, but Mike, in the next 5 years, this is what it's going to do. And I'm like, then why isn't the current owner doing it? If it's so good, if this property can do this in year one, why isn't it being done now? Well, well, the rents are, $200 below market. Why? No one asked these questions. It's like, oh, I have an upside. I can raise the rents, instead of saying, why isn't the current owner doing all these things that are showing up in the pro formas? Another thing you have to look at is a lot of the P&Ls, it's against the law, but if you don't catch it, it's not against the law. They'll run two different books, okay? The real one that they give to the tax people, and that will reflect on the tax returns. But then there's another one that they give potential buyers. And then if they're caught, it's, oh, wait a minute, okay. Oh, thank you for catching that. We'll do an amended tax return. I was like, oh, yeah, BS. You're trying to give me a different type of books. So just be more cautious with the numbers. Don't look at, it's like, wow, look what the performer, look what I can do. Don't fall for that trap. Look at the books.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and match them up. No one's ever said that. I've done that. I've asked that question hundreds of times. No one's ever said, yeah, match up tax returns to the P&Ls. That's good. All right, Mike, last one. It's a two-parter. The first part's always a little easier. It's about looking back, Mike, 5 years ago. So Mike, in 2020, what advice would you have given to that Mike? And then the second part's a little harder, or maybe it's easier for you because it looks like you're a pretty forward-looking investor and entrepreneur. But what would Mike in 2030, what do you think that Mike would be telling you today? So do the first one first. It's a little easier.
First one, well, I would have told myself, don't let COVID scare you. One thing that I did not do, which I would have done, I have a lot of friends that made a lot of money during COVID. I was trying to survive during COVID, and I passed up a lot of opportunities in 2020, 2021 to buy more assets that were going under, but I was scared. I was like going, I can't survive now. So I let my fears get in the way of growth. So I would have told myself, it's like going, hey, dummy, buy, So I would have continued raising money. I would have continued purchasing assets and not let the fear of COVID, because I had people, that were doing a good job during COVID, but I was like inserting myself back into it like I did in the old days.
Yeah.
So that's what I would have told myself is let the experts do it. Don't panic. Go out and buy even more,
Yes.
And I would have done.
Stay the course. Yep.
Stay the course instead of, the panic that I did. 2030, probably be, I hope that I say, hey, you should have been more aggressive with the European, raise more money, be more diligent instead of like kind of tiptoeing into it. Because I think that it's going to be I know it's going to be a fun ride, and just getting them under your belt and then going full bore. And I should just go, hey, let's open this fund up even bigger, instead of like a smaller 2-property fund for now. Again, it's just like stand up, man. It's like let's do it.
Love it.
It's kind of the same question, isn't it? So I should have told myself 5 years ago, it's like going, come on, let's do it. And I'd probably be telling myself, it's like Spain's fun. Spain, we have an apartment there that I just got back from, and it's Barcelona. And all the properties that we're buying is called, the area is called Costa Brava, which is north and northeast along the coast of Barcelona. It's one of the most traveled to destinations in all of Europe.
Wow.
So it's fun.
So cool. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, before I let you kind of share how people can invest with you on those projects, I want to highlight that, yeah, you learned your lesson 5 years ago, or you're telling yourself the lesson right now, and and now you're pre-shadowing and saying, yep, I don't want to sit here in 5 years and say I should have done more in Spain and Europe. So if other people want to invest in deals like that as a limited partner, or how can people get a hold of you and work with you, Mike?
Yeah, the best thing is I'm very, very, very active on LinkedIn. So if it's Michael Stohler, Stohler. Website's Gateway PE as in private equity, gatewaype.com. I also have a podcast that Casey's been on, therichergeek.com, because we all want to get rich, and I'm a geek. So it's The Richer Geek. And those are the way, that's how to do it. And on LinkedIn, there's email me, mike@gatewaype.com. My signature always has a link for the Spain project. I have a beautiful brochure. Doesn't cost you anything to do some window shopping.
Yep. I love it. Well, yeah, you guys can go find him. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes. But what a cool podcast today, guys. From resilience, starting out, not giving up, showing that entrepreneurial spirit, to learning, applying lessons. And man, one of my favorite things is the what do you call it? Lifestyle investing, right? Looking at that, looking and making investments that actually align with what you're trying to do and align with things you want to do. I mean, who does not want to invest in something like that? You're onto something, Mike. I love it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, Mike.
All right, Casey. Appreciate you having me.
All right. Thank you, guys. If you're listening to this because you're chasing freedom, not just for yourself, but for your family, then don't let this just be the background noise. Take action. Shoot me a DM. Reach out. Find a property. Make a call. Remember, small moves today create the life your future self and your family will thank you for tomorrow.